So I guess it's easiest to start from the beginning. And my friend who eventually needed help didn't show any signs that there was anything wrong. All throughout college, we had fun. We would go to parties. We would drink and we would have fun, and everything seemed normal. It wasn't until we all moved away and my friend kind of had to stay in his hometown and didn't get a chance to kind of move on with his life that I think that's where the problem started. I kept in contact with him throughout the years, and I knew that he was struggling, but I had no idea to what extent. I guess the next step of the journey came when I invited him out to come see me on a fun friend's vacation. We started out very innocently and took a road trip down into Mexico. And I started to notice some strange behavior where he was very intrigued by the availability and accessibility of pharmaceutical drugs in Mexico. And I didn't think too much of it, but it did raise a question mark for me. I think that the real blaring red flag was when he left staying with me and went to stay with some of his family. And it had just so happened that he had gotten into their drug cabinet, really went for it, took a lot of different things, and they called me up because they had no idea what to do. So I told them to bring him over to my house. I had dealt with people in various states of intoxication before. That's what we see a lot in college. So I had an idea of what to expect, but when my friend came to my house, it was worse than I had ever seen it. I could tell that there just wasn't very much life behind his eyes. And I knew that something was really wrong. Up until this point, I still had never talked with him about addiction or his own personal problem. So I think we both sort of agreed at that point that it was time to talk. So I sat him down on my couch and asked him what was going on. And it was at that point that he really, I think he realized he had an opportunity to open up about what was going on in his life and let me know just the extent of his addiction and his drug use and really his depression and his sadness. And it was hard for me to hear, but I knew that this was really a rock bottom for him, and by that I only mean that it meant that he had so much opportunity to go back up. So as worried as I was about him, I knew that we had to make a plan moving forward, and we talked about several opportunities of him getting out of his environment and coming to stay with me, or maybe just moving somewhere completely different to start anew. And I had reached out to his family, and I talked with his mother, and she had been aware of the situation, but she really didn't know what to do. And that I find is a very common occurrence where people that are really close to drug users and addicts, they're almost too close and they don't know what to do, how to take the next step. So we both agreed that something drastic had to happen. We needed to save my friend's life. I had a friend, luckily, who worked at Rehab in the United States, and we reached out to him, and he was very helpful, as I find a lot of rehab centers are, and set us up with a plan of what we could do to get the ball rolling almost immediately. So we all came to a decision collectively that it was time to sort of pull the trigger and make a big step. I knew that as much as my friend was going to be tentative about doing it, he also knew that it was the right thing to do. So literally that next day, I put him on a flight and we sent him to the rehab center. I didn't get to talk with him for a couple days, and I'll remember about 3 days after he was first admitted to the rehab center, I got a phone call and I saw that it was an area code I didn't recognize. I thought, oh, maybe this is my friend. And I answered the phone, and the voice on the end of the line sounded familiar, but it sounded so different. And I just remember kind of having this feeling of, it's him, but it doesn't sound anything like him, because he had confidence in his voice. There was a strength to his voice that I hadn't heard in a really long time. And that was very sort of reassuring that he was well on his way. He was going down the right path. And as he told me about the treatments that they were doing and the advancement that he was having, it really just made me feel like we had made the right decision. And it turns out he completed his entire rehabilitation, just had completely turned around, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and so much so it had such a great impact on his life that he actually decided to stay at the center, work for the center, and help people. And I think that that's one of the greatest success stories that you can have, is if somebody realizes how important it is and wants to help people and their experience. And to this day, we still talk, we still find time to hang out with each other. I went to his wedding recently, and nothing makes me happier than to see him happy and to see that he's made such a positive change in his life. So although I was there to sort of make the tough call, I think that it's just so important for an addict or for people that are in these situations. They need to have the support around them, and they need to be pushed into the next step. So that's my experience. I hope it helps.